steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Touchdown! Kansas City! Damian Williams runs to immortality and will be remembered forever in the Chiefs' kingdom.
G'day everybody and welcome in again to another Sunday evening here on KC Radio 97.7 FM for Talkin American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. This is the 1 week call. 1 week before Super Bowl 55. I can't believe we still have another week to wait. This last week has felt like an absolute lifetime. Very much anticipation in the air for one of the most highly anticipated Super Bowls in a long, long time, with, of course, the great matchup to come between Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking to go back-to-back, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the immortal, and I think I can say that, the immortal Tom Brady and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to have more of a real in-depth preview of the Super Bowl next Sunday night, with, of course, still 7 days to go before the big game. But I'm going to go back and have a look at the two championship games from last week and how both these teams found their way to Super Bowl 55. And then over the next couple of segments, like I alluded to last week I went through and had a look at the teams that were eliminated from playoff contention and their prospects for next season. Over the next couple of segments, I'm going to have a look at all of the teams by draft order from 1 to 18. That is the 18 teams that didn't make the playoffs, of course. And I'm also going to have a look at the two teams that lost the championship games last Monday morning as well. But first, let's kick off and have a look back at last Monday morning, Championship Sunday, and the two games that took place, beginning with the first game, which was the Packers at home, their first NFC Championship game at home this century, where they went down to Tampa Bay in a bit of an upset here, 31-26. What a great win this was for the Bucs, and what a great performance, or a great win, not the best performance, from Tom Brady, who wins through to his 10th Super Bowl after helping guide the Buccaneers to a road win in Lambeau Field over the MVP favourite, Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady, I mentioned his performance. He tossed 3 touchdowns and 12 first downs to move the chains in several really big situations in this game. He finished with 280 yards all told, but there could have been quite a lot more if it weren't for a few uncharacteristic drops by the Tampa Bay wide receivers. He did throw, the great Tom Brady, 3 interceptions in the second half, including one, which was one of the worst passes, I'd have to say, in his career that I have seen anyway, that was picked off by Packers cornerback Jair Alexander. The credit has to go in this game, much like it did last week in their win over New Orleans. Tampa Bay, their defense was incredible again. Shaq Barrett compiled 3 sacks, while Jason Pierre-Paul took down Aaron Rodgers a couple of times as well. And the linebackers, Devin White and Devontae David, they flew to the ball. They were flying all around the field. And safety Jordan Whitehead, he forced 2 fumbles in this one before exiting due to injuries. They might have given up some yards in this one, the Tampa Bay defense, but when Todd Bowles' squad needed to make big plays, it got off the field more often than not. In this one, I thought I said going into this game last week that the Bucs defense was going to have to stand up to be a shot at winning this one, and absolutely they did. For the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, he made a bevy of amazing strikes all game in this one. He completed 33 of his 48 passes for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. The quarterback clawed the Packers back into the game after Green Bay had been down by 18 points early in the third quarter, but missed opportunities will haunt the Green Bay Packers all off-season. Aaron Rodgers, he threw incomplete 6 times in scoring position, and the Packers settled for field goals on those occasions. In the red zone, their misses were the difference in this game, really. They had back-to-back 3-and-outs in the third quarter as well. After Green Bay, they forced 3 turnovers. Of course, Tom Brady threw 3 picks on 3 consecutive drives, and on those ensuing offensive possessions, the Packers couldn't couldn't do anything with it. And there was that one particular drive where they had the ball, not just in the red zone, but inside the 10-yard line. I think they had a 3rd and 8. A 3rd and goal from the 8 where Aaron Rodgers rolled out to his right, and it looked like he could have run for, if not a touchdown, he at least could have picked up a chunk of yardage, and instead he threw an incompletion. And then on the next play, Matt LaFleur decided to kick a field goal on that one play. In the aftermath of this one, was picked apart a lot in the media, and for good reason as well. Once again, the great Aaron Rodgers and co, they fall short in an NFC Championship game as the quarterback misses out on another chance to play in his 2nd Super Bowl. For Tom Brady, he's playing for the chance to hoist his 7th Lombardi trophy, if you don't mind. Tampa Bay win its first NFC Championship game, I should say, since 2002, and they officially become the first team to play in a Super Bowl in their home stadium. So that's going to be a real unique experience for them to be able to sleep in their own beds the night before a Super Bowl, and then be in the home stadium there as well, in the comfy confines of Raymond James Stadium. So it's been one of the really crazy stats in the NFL, hasn't it, that no team has ever played in a home Super Bowl in their home stadium. Of course, the LA Rams played in a Super Bowl at the I think it was the Rose Bowl, but of course that wasn't their home stadium at the time. And there was another team as well that played in a Super Bowl. It was San Francisco. They played in a Super Bowl that was played at Stanford Stadium, but of course that wasn't their home stadium at the time. So there's been a couple of teams that have played in home state Super Bowls, but never before until next Monday will we have seen a team play in a Super Bowl in their home stadium. And what a disappointing season, a good season, but a disappointing end to the season for the Green Bay Packers, who, of course, there was a little bit of a furor after that game when in the presser, Aaron Rodgers said that, a couple of those big decisions were not his decisions. And, of course, didn't that set the cat amongst the pigeons? We'll wait and see in the off-season what happens there, but I'll be very surprised if anything happens other than Aaron Rodgers suiting up for the Green Bay Packers next season. He is contracted, of course, so I expect him to be in the green and gold next season. And then the second game on Monday morning, the AFC Championship game, it was the Kansas City Chiefs winning comfortably in the end, really, 38-24 winners over Buffalo. And the Chiefs in this one, they were just too good, dispatching another challenger, this time in Buffalo, to win through to a 2nd consecutive Super Bowl appearance. The Bills, they aimed to prevent the explosive plays. Kansas City, though, they took what the Buffalo defense gave it, and they turned the small chunk plays into explosive plays in the end. So by the time we got to the second half, the Chiefs had posted 3 touchdown drives of 5 minutes or less, as the Chiefs do. Tyreek Hill, he finished this one with 9 catches for 172 yards. Travis Kelce caught 13 balls for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those 13 receptions were the most of any player in an AFC Championship game, and Patrick Mahomes finished with a passer rating north of 127. His final stat line in that one was 29 of 38, 325 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Bills, they did jump out to a 9-0 lead in this one, booting an early field goal before capitalizing on a Mecole Hardman muffed punt that set them up on the doorstep of the end zone, save for a futile comeback attempt to make the score a little bit more respectable. The Bills lost this track meet by a wide margin, really. Credit as well to the Chiefs' defense, which limited the Bills to 5 of 14 on 3rd down on the night, and they held Buffalo to 3 field goals on trips into Kansas City territory, including 2 possessions that ended inside the 10-yard line, and then Sean McDermott and the Bills decided to go for it. To kick the touchdown rather than go for it. KC, their defense blanketed Bills wide receiver Stephon Diggs to 6 catches and 77 yards. Diggs had just 2 receptions for 12 yards to halftime in this one, while their 4 sacks of Josh Allen accounted for a combined loss yardage of 53 yards. The big one for me in this game was Buffalo not being gutsy enough in terms of play calling. Sean McDermott sent the field goal unit out for an attempt with the ball at Kansas City's 2-yard line just before halftime in a game that was 21-19. And then he did it again from Kansas City's 8-yard line in a 24-12 game midway through the third quarter. That was the score in that one at the time, 24-12. Too often the Bills were on the doorstep of matching Chiefs touchdowns with their own, but elected to take the points and keep the score within 9, burning precious time and also wasting away rare opportunities to try and keep pace with the fast-moving Chiefs. Kansas City, they win through, like I say, to its second successive Super Bowl. It's their 4th Super Bowl appearance in the history of the franchise. The win was soured a little bit with Eric Fisher, the left tackle, unfortunately tearing his Achilles, so he's of course not going to play in the Super Bowl next week. And of course, doing an injury like that at this point in the season, there's all sorts of question marks over both the tackle positions now, with Mitch Schwartz, who's been on injured reserve most of the year with a back injury. So they're going to be without their top 2 tackles. So that could make it interesting, especially with Tampa Bay's defense swarming around like they have been. So Kansas City, they were the favourites coming into the season, and now they give themselves a chance to win successive Super Bowls and be the first team to do that since New England did it in 2003, 2004. And Buffalo, a bittersweet way to end what has been a terrific season for them. Of course, they hadn't won a playoff game for 25 years coming into the season, and now they've won their division, first time since 95, won a playoff game for the first time since 95, and got to the AFC Championship game for the first time in a long time as well. So don't make no mistake, they are on the rise, Buffalo, but they'll be really disappointed with how the season has ended, and they are now faced with the same questions that a lot of teams are facing in the AFC, and that is, how do they stop the Kansas City Chiefs? It's a question that really the answer lies, unquestioned or unanswered, I should say. It's really going to be interesting in the AFC over the next few seasons to see how teams concoct a plan to be able to get past Kansas City. But the Bills are on the rise, make no mistake about that, and I think they should consider this season a success regardless. So Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay is set for next Monday. It'll be Kansas City at Tampa Bay. I'll have plenty of time to pull that apart next week. But what I'm going to do now over the course of the next couple of segments is go and have a look at the teams who the off-season has already begun. And that's 20 teams in total, the 18 non-playoff teams, and then the 2 losers from Championship Sunday. And hopefully, if we get time, I'm going to touch on the quarterback carousel as well, with a lot of news circling around the traps, a couple of big-name quarterbacks officially requesting trade. So that all lays in store when we return on Talkin American Footy. You're listening to Casey Radio on this Sunday evening here. I'm Brent Sternberg, and when we return, we're going to have a look at the teams that were eliminated from postseason contention. When we return on Talkin American Footy, you're listening to Casey Radio 97.7 FM. Back soon. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Talkin American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on this Sunday evening, where before the break, we went back and had a bit of a recap of Championship Sunday. We had a look at Kansas City, who won through to their second consecutive Super Bowl by beating Buffalo 38-24, and we had a look at the Bucks, who had a surprise win on the road at Lambeau Field, led of course by the great Tom Brady. They beat the Green Bay Packers by a score that I have forgotten, 31-26. It was a close game. I couldn't actually quite remember the score in that one, but a terrific win for the Bucks, who win through to their first home Super Bowl, their second Super Bowl ever, the first team to play in a home Super Bowl. So there's a whole bunch of storylines surrounding that game that we will get to in next week's show, and I'm sure you'll see them floating around the place, as well as Super Bowl week kicks into gear, I should say, over these next 7 days. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and have a look at the teams that were eliminated from playoff contention, or didn't make the playoffs, I should say, and also the teams that were eliminated last week. And I'm going to call this off-season reasoning, and I'm going to have a bit of a look at what the off-seasons may have in store for these teams. I'm going to go through these teams in the draft order in terms of how the draft looks right now. Of course, when the new league year starts in March, there's a chance for this order to change with trading of draft picks and whatnot. But I'm going to start with that order And I'm going to start with Jacksonville, who, of course, have the number 1 pick. They finished 1-15 this season. They have a new coach in Urban Meyer who comes in, former Ohio State coach, new GM in Trent Baalke, who was the interim. Now he's full-time. They hired Darrell Bevel as offensive coordinator and Joe Cullen as defensive coordinator. They have a few free agents that they'll be looking to re-sign. Cornerback DJ Hayden, left tackle Cam Robinson, and a couple of wide receivers in Keelan Cole and Chris Conley. They have the most salary cap in the league in just over $73 million, 11 draft picks, including the number 1 pick, as well as 7 draft picks inside the first 4 rounds. Their offense finished 28th in the league this season, but of course they will have Trevor Lawrence, who is about to step in the door. Excuse me. The big question for them is how much will Trevor Lawrence fix this offense? He's a very highly thought of quarterback. We'll wait and see how much he adds to this team and to this offense. A defense which finished 31st. Got some young pieces, though, in pass rusher Josh Allen, and then rookie CJ Henderson, cornerback CJ Henderson, and linebacker / pass rusher Clavon Chason. This is a roster that actually has a few good talented players dotted throughout it. They will get some guys back who were COVID opt-outs as well, in cornerback Rashaan Melvin and defensive tackle Al Woods. The question mark for Jacksonville is Urban Meyer. Never coached in the pros before. There's been plenty of good college coaches who have made the jump to the pros who haven't made it. Some have, but a lot have struggled with that jump, so we'll see how Urban Meyer goes. But I'm really excited about Jacksonville. I think Urban Meyer is going to be a good coach. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a fine quarterback, and they have already some nice pieces to begin the rebuild with. Some nice players, like I say, dotted throughout the roster. Trevor Lawrence comes in. They're equipped with a ton of salary cap space. They have to get a lot of things right this off-season and over the next couple of off-seasons, but particularly this one. But I think Jacksonville are a team who will be able to rebound quickly under head coach Urban Meyer, led, of course, by the quarterback there in Trevor Lawrence, who I have no doubt they will pick with pick 1. So I think you can keep an eye on the Jags. I think they're going to be a team who will be able to rebound quickly. A team I'm not sure will be able to do that is the New York Jets, who finished 2-14, of course. New head coach Robert Saleh comes in, former Niners defensive coordinator. Mike LaFleur also in as offensive coordinator. They've got some free agents in wide receiver Brashad Perryman, cornerback Brian Poole, safety Marcus May, who's probably the biggest one, and linebackers Jordan Jenkins and Neville Hewitt. They've got a lot of salary cap space as well, the third most, just over $63 million. 10 draft picks as well, including 2 in round 1 and 2 in round 3. It's an offense that needs a lot of help. They finished dead last in the league last year. The big $1 million question for them is, what do they do at quarterback? Do they bring back Sam Darnold, or do they go in to the sweepstakes for Deshaun Watson? They've certainly got the draft capital to be able to secure Deshaun Watson. Defense is an issue as well. Finished 24th, although they do have a budding star in defensive tackle, Quinnen Williams. They do have CJ Mosley, who should return as well, who was a COVID opt-out as well. But the big thing for the Jets here this season is, what do they do at quarterback? They do have pick 2, which will be able to secure one of the elite quarterback talents if they wish. Jungle drums are starting to beat, though, that they may actually be keen to keep Sam Darnold and give him another chance, and maybe trade back from pick 2 and use that to accumulate more picks and actually give Sam Darnold some help for once. I don't think that would be the worst idea. If I were them, I'd be throwing caution to the wind and just going all out to get Deshaun Watson, because I think he would be the better solution. But a lot of teams are in that boat. A lot of teams would have Deshaun Watson as an upgrade, not just the Jets. So interesting to see what they do this offseason, the Jets, in terms of the quarterback and what they do with draft picks. But I know they got a good head coach there in Robert Saleh. I'm really keen to see what he can do with that team, particularly with the defense as well. The next team is Houston. They don't have pick 3. Of course, Miami have pick 3, but in terms of the league hierarchy, they finished as the team with the third worst record. They hired Ravens assistant head coach David Culley as their new head coach. Also hired Nick Caserio as the new GM as well a couple of weeks ago. And Lovie Smith just this week as new defensive coordinator. Their big free agent that they're likely going to lose is Will Fuller, the wide receiver. They're a team who are actually in the red at the moment in terms of salary cap space, 18.3 million. That shouldn't be too hard to get over that. They also have 8 draft picks, none at the moment until round 3. Currently only 2 picks in the top 100. Their offense finished 13th. The elephant in the room here is what on earth are they going to do with Deshaun Watson, who said this week that he wants to be traded. It was reported from Adam Schefter that he actually said that quite a few weeks ago, that he wanted to be traded. So it looks like they're going to have no choice but to trade him, although the new head coach there in David Culley had his opening press conference the other day. He said, "Make no mistake, we have no intention to trade Deshaun Watson." So it looks like we could have a good old Mexican standoff down in Houston. The defense didn't help much either. They finished 30th. They need talent on every level. The Texans, but back on Deshaun Watson, he led the league in passing yards, average yards per attempt, and he was one of only 2 to average more than 300 passing yards a game. The other one was Mahomes, of course. Second in passer rating behind only Aaron Rodgers, and took the second most sacks in the league, despite having such a brilliant season, Deshaun. They won't get anybody back, Houston, in terms of COVID opt-outs, but this is a team that, well, it looks like their best player, their best player last season, DeAndre Hopkins, was traded out. It looks like now for the second season in a row, they're going to lose their best player in their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, who demands out. So there's all sorts of issues with the Houston Texans moving into this offseason. To the Atlanta Falcons, another team who finished 4-12, Arthur Smith comes in as the new head coach. They hired Terry Fontenot as well as the new GM. They hired Dean Pease as defensive coordinator and Dave Ragone as offensive coordinator as well. Free agents, center Alex Mack, who is likely to retire, actually. Running back Todd Gurley, as well as safety Keanu Neal. They're currently over the salary cap, I should say, $36.3 million. They got 6 draft picks, currently scheduled to pick 4th overall. The offense finished 18th. The big question here is, do they stick with the Matt Ryan, Julio Jones combination, or what do they do there? Is this going to be a full-blown rebuild? The defense needs a lot of assets as well. They finished 29th in the league, 18th in takeaways, and 23rd in sacks, which is 29. They need to inject talent into this team, particularly on defense. And of course, the big thing to watch is, what do they do at quarterback? They have pick 4. They should be able to pick an elite quarterback of their liking if they decide to go down that path, or perhaps they may decide to stay with Matt Ryan and have one last go around. The Atlanta Falcons. Cincinnati Bengals, they finished 4-11-1. No coaching changes, so a bit of stability here for the Bengals. Some big name free agents, though. Wide receivers AJ Green and John Ross. Cornerback William Jackson, and pass rusher Carl Lawson. It's a team also in the red in terms of salary cap, $32.3 million over the cap. 7 draft picks and scheduled to pick 5th overall. Offense finished 29th. They will certainly do better, though, with Joe Burrow returning and hopefully injecting some more help up front on the offensive line. The defense finished 26th, minus 7 turnover differential, only 17 takeaways, which was 27th in the league. I mean, they know they have their guy at quarterback, Cincinnati, but they know what they have to do this offseason, and that is that they need to get more protection up front. So it's a pretty simple prerogative for the Bengals this offseason. Build the wall in front of Joe Burrow. Also finishing 4-11-1 was Philadelphia. They hired Colts offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni as their new head coach. They hire, for the defense, Jonathan Gannon as defensive coordinator. And it looks like they're hiring Shane Steichen as well as offensive coordinator. They too have some free agents that they'll be keen to re-sign. Offensive tackle Jason Peters, who actually, I think, come out of retirement to play this season. Safety Jalen Mills, and running back Boston Scott. $53.5 million over the cap. That's the second worst position of all the teams. 7 draft picks, including 6th overall. Offense that finished 24th in the league. What do they do at quarterback? It looks like they're going to stick with Carson Wentz, who had a dreadful season this season. They've also got Jalen Hurts, who might settle into a backup role. They also have a draft pick to be able to spend if they feel that way inclined. The defense finished 19th. They need more talent. A minus 10 turnover differential. That had a lot to do with Carson Wentz giving the ball away every week. And they only had 8 interceptions, which was the third fewest. In terms of COVID opt-outs, they're only going to get wide receiver Marquise Goodwin back. So he should help for a team that needs wide receiver help. But really intriguing to see what they do at the quarterback position. If they go with Carson Wentz, can they fix him? He looked broken last season, so we'll see what they do there. Philly. The Detroit Lions finished 5-11. They hired Dan Campbell as their next head coach, Brad Holmes as their new GM, and Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator, and they're hiring former Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator. They've got a bunch of free agents as well, including almost all of their wide receivers: Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, Kenny Golladay, and Jamal Agnew, their return guy. Safety Duron Harmon, and linebacker Gerard Davis. They've got a little bit of salary cap to play with, just under $2 million, and they've got only 5 draft picks, including 7th overall. Offense finished 20th in the league. Matt Stafford is out, though. So what is the plan at quarterback? What sort of draft picks can they get for him, and what do they do? Do they maybe try and trade for a veteran, or do they maybe trade away Matt Stafford and get a bunch of draft picks and then try and get in a young quarterback and get some talent onto this roster as well? It's definitely, it's no doubt a team that needs talent everywhere, including, at the quarterback position if Matt Stafford is gone, and then everywhere on the defense as well. For a defense that finished last in the league, they had just 12 takeaways, only 7 interceptions, 24 sacks, which was 26th in the league, and Romeo Aquara, who had 10 of those, and Everson Griffin, who had 6. They're both free agents, so there's a lot of work to be done here in Detroit, and it looks like a team that is headed for a full-blown rebuild. On Matt Stafford, I have seen in the last 48 hours that it looks like he may be traded even before the Super Bowl, so we may meet next Sunday night and Matt Stafford is on a new team. Of course, no one can actually do any trades officially until the new league year starts, but they can agree to terms and in principle. So he could be gone quite quickly, Matt Stafford. So they're the first bunch of teams that I wanted to look at. I'm going to take another quick break and have a look at the next teams. I think we've got the teams picking 8 till 15. So we'll have a look at those teams when we return on Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. You're listening to Casey Radio 97.7 FM. Back soon. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on this Sunday evening here on Casey Radio 97.7 FM, where we're going through and having a look at all the teams this off-season that didn't make the playoffs, and having a look at their prospects heading into the off-season, which will be upon us in no time. Before the break, we went and had a look at the teams picking from 1 to 7. Now we're going to get straight into the teams picking from 8 to 15, beginning with the Carolina Panthers, who finished 5-11 in 2020 under first-year head coach. What's his name? Matt Rule. I couldn't remember his name. Matt Rule had a pretty good year to start off with, and then things sort of went pear-shaped down the stretch. They hired Scott Fitterer as general manager to replace the fired Marty Herney. They've got a bunch of free agents, actually, particularly along the offensive line. They've got both starting left and right tackles, Russell Okung and Taylor Moton, guard John Miller, running back Mike Davis, who had a terrific year in place of the injured Christian McCaffrey, wide receiver Curtis Samuel, who had a pretty tremendous year, actually, a breakout year for Curtis Samuel, and linebacker Tahir Whitehead. They've got a bit of salary cap room to move with. They've got $5.5 million. That'll pop open a little bit when they start to make some moves, and 6 picks, including, of course, 8th overall. An offense which finished 21st this season with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, of course. The big question is, do they stick with Teddy or do they move on? I think Teddy Bridgewater is a really likable guy and a likable quarterback, but we found out over these last couple of seasons what he is, and that he is a tremendous backup. He's a fantastic backup, and he's a guy who can come in and you can continue to win with and keep the status quo if your starter is is injured. They're going to have a pick early enough, I think, to get a quarterback if they want one. They're probably going to miss out on the couple of sort of elite guys, but there may be someone like a Trey Lance or a possibly Justin Fields may get there to pick 8. So we'll see what they do. Of course, they're going to have Christian McCaffrey back next season fit. He battled with injuries all season. He's their best player and their most important player. On defense, it's a Panthers defense that finished 18th this season with a really good young core group of players, including pass rusher Brian Burns, and also on the other side of the line, Yatua Gross-Matos, who was a rookie this season, who showed some good signs. Defensive tackle Derek Brown, who was also a rookie, and so too was Jeremy Chin, the safety, who had a fantastic year, and I won't be surprised if he is announced as the Defensive Rookie of the Year next Sunday night. So there's some nice pieces to build around on defense. Of course, remember, they spent all their picks in the draft last year on defense. They may go back to the draft this year and look to add some offensive talent. But the big thing they need to work out is what they're going to do at the quarterback position. They may decide to go with Teddy again, or perhaps they bring in a draft pick, and what that would allow, if they bring in someone who is very raw, like a Trey Lance, hypothetically, he may be able to then sit behind Teddy Bridgewater for a season while he sort of learns the ropes. So that was the Carolina Panthers, who will have pick 8, as things currently stand anyway, who finished 5-11. As did the Denver Broncos. They finished 5-11 too. They hired George Patton as the new GM after John Elway strangely promoted himself. That was one of the more weird transactions so far during the offseason. Got some big-name free agents as well, including pass rusher Von Miller, former Super Bowl MVP Von Miller, who didn't play at all this season after getting injured before the season kicked off. I think it was a torn ACL from memory. Safety Justin Simmons, too, who played this season on the franchise tag, as well as the other safety, Kareem Jackson. They're both set to hit free agency. I think Justin Simmons will be one of their biggest priorities to re-sign in the offseason. Running back Philip Lindsay as well is out of contract for a team that has a tick over $14 million in salary cap. They also have 8 draft picks, currently slated to pick 9th overall, so they have a top 10 pick. It's an offense that finished 23rd this season, and they're yet another team that have an issue at quarterback. Do they move ahead with Drew Lock, forge ahead with Drew Lock, who is really a frustrating guy, been in the league for 2 years now and has showed some good signs and some awful signs as well. I think this will be a team that may be interested in Matt Stafford as well. They're probably just going to miss the boat in terms of having a draft pick to get a quarterback, unless they feel good about taking someone like a Mac Jones with a top 10 pick. So we'll see what they do at the quarterback position. The defense finished 21st. And the question is, does Von Miller and Justin Simmons, do they return? I don't think Von Miller will. Justin Simmons, they'll be pretty keen to keep him on. Like I say, he's one of the best young safeties in the league. They do have a budding young superstar pass rusher in Brad Chubb, so they know they have one piece to build around, but there certainly are some question marks everywhere for this team, including at the quarterback position and on a couple of the levels on defense as well. Returning opt-outs include offensive tackle Juwan James, who was going to play at right tackle this year until he opted out. So we'll see what Denver do this offseason. They look like a team that may, I think, throw their hat into the ring for the Matt Stafford sweepstakes, but we'll wait and see on that. Dallas, who were one of the most disappointing teams this year, they finished 6-10. They hire former Falcons coach Dan Quinn as new defensive coordinator. Free agents include probably the biggest free agent on the market until he re-signs this season, quarterback Dak Prescott, center Joe Looney as well, linebacker Alden Smith, who returned to the NFL this year for the first time in, I think, 5 years. Hadn't played in the league in 5 years and actually played pretty well for someone who'd been out of the league for so long. And starting cornerback Chidobe Awuzie as well. Got plenty of draft capital at the moment, just a tick under $14 million. 6 draft picks, including number 10. Overall, an offense that finished 14th in the league. No doubt would have finished higher and perhaps even top 5 with a healthy Dak Prescott. Prescott went down, and then they got a whole raft of injuries after he went down, including on the offensive line. The defense, they finished 23rd, 28th in scoring, 7th in takeaways, though, despite only having 10 interceptions. They also had 31 sacks, which was 20th. I mean, the big thing here for the Cowboys is what do they do with Dak Prescott? Obviously, they have to re-sign him. We saw in the first few weeks, how they're capable with Dak Prescott. And then, of course, we saw what they're like without him. So, I mean, he's one of the most important players in this league to his team. So it's a no-brainer that they re-sign him. But, I mean, you never know with Jerry Jones. So they're making a big mistake if they don't bring him back. And if they do, and then have a good draft class and remain healthy next season, I think this is a team that, they should be a quick bounce-back contender, I think, the Cowboys. Sticking in the NFC East and moving along to the New York Giants now, who also finished 6-10. No coaching changes, though they signed defensive coordinator Patrick Graham to an extension. A couple of big-name free agents, Leonard Williams, who had a career year, and also defensive tackle Delvin Tomlinson. They're just under the salary, just over, I should say, the salary cap as well, $3.3 million. 6 draft picks, including 11th overall. The offense finished 31st in the league, so obviously second last. Return of Saquon Barkley, though, next season will help. He, of course, did his knee in the second game. This season's still got a lot of work to do on the offensive line, and they have to get more explosive as well. The jury is still out on Daniel Jones, I think, for maybe at least one more year, but he showed some signs of improvement this year. The turnovers were down, but if he doesn't make a leap in year 3 at the end of next season, it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do. At the position, the defense finished 12th. There was one point there where they looked like they were going to finish much higher than that, and then they sort of went off the boil down the stretch. They finished with a dead-even turnover differential. They had 40 sacks as well, which was 13th in the league. There's no doubt they need to get better on defense in terms of getting after the pass. So they'll have a couple of returning COVID opt-outs as well, including offensive tackle Nate Solder, the veteran there. He should be able to help out the line when he returns, and cornerback Sam Beal as well. So this is a Giants team that I think they've finished 6-10 this year, and that probably tells you exactly where they are. But if they get some improvement from Daniel Jones and add, continue to add some pieces on the offensive line and find an elite pass rusher, I think that they can have a good year, the Giants, and be in the mix for a division where I don't think there's any clear standout team. There's certainly not a team in that division that I could see winning 12 or 13 games to win it. So they may not be that far away from a division title, the Giants, if they can just get some improvement from within and also have a good off season with a good draft class and so on. To San Francisco now, another team that finished 6-10. Their defensive coordinator, of course, Robert Saleh, is gone. This is a team with a raft of big-name free agents set to hit the market. Left tackle Trent Williams, who come across from Washington and was probably the best left tackle in the league this season, even though he didn't play last year for Washington. Cornerbacks Richard Sherman and Jason Verrett are also free agents. Defensive end Solomon Thomas, who missed most of the year due to injury. Safety Jaquiski Tart, fullback Kyle Juszczyk, wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, and both quarterbacks Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. They have $9.3 million to play with, 8 draft picks, 12th overall they're set to pick. And they'll be looking to help an offense which finished 15th. Did really well despite the injuries they had to battle with. Although, what do they do with Jimmy Garoppolo? That's the big question for San Francisco. He looks like he may have fallen out of favor. And they are a team that have put their hat into the ring for Matt Stafford as well. So I think this team can rebound really quickly. I mean, they were just killed by injuries this season, San Francisco, so they can bounce back quickly. The defense, even with all the injuries, finished 5th. They need secondary help, though. They don't have any quarterbacks on the books at the moment for next season. And, of course, the return of Nick Bosa, I'm sure, will help to no end as well. So I have no doubt San Francisco will be back in contention for the playoffs next season in the NFC. What do they do at quarterback, though? Let's wait and see. If they get to Sean Watson, who they've been pretty keen on, as have a few other teams, then look out. I think they'll be back in Super Bowl contention. With that, if Deshaun Watson finds his way there. They do look like a team that may be pretty keen as well to give up draft capital. Of course, they traded away DeForest Buckner last season to sort of maneuver around. So I think we'll wait and see with San Francisco. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo, their quarterback, may be playing somewhere else in season 2021. Staying in the NFC West, to the AFC West, I should say, the LA Chargers, who finished 7-9. New coach coming in, Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley to be their next head coach. Hired Ronaldo Hill as defensive coordinator and Joe Lombardi as offensive coordinator, so he gets to go and work with Justin Herbert. Free agents include pass rusher Melvin Ingram, tight end Hunter Henry, center Mike Pouncey, linebacker Denzel Perryman, cornerback Michael Davis, Tyrod Taylor, the backup quarterback, and guard Dan Feeney. So a few big names there. They've got $19.6 million in salary cap, including 8 picks, 13th overall. An offense, the Chargers that finished 9th with Justin Herbert, who looks like they've found an absolute stud there, but they still need to get better on the offensive line, including at left tackle. The defense was pretty good too. They finished 10th. They'll get Dew and James back, but they need to get stronger up the middle of the defense with the help at defensive tackle and linebacker. This is the team that I think can be a dark horse this season if Justin Herbert can continue to go to strength. They've got an early draft pick. They've got some salary cap room. They've got an interesting coaching situation coming in with Brandon Staley. I think you should keep an eye on the LA Chargers. I think they won like 4 or 5 of their last games, so they finished strongly. Keep an eye on the LA Chargers. They've got an exciting young quarterback, and I think they're going to try and capitalize on that in free agency, signing some big names and hitting the draft hard too. So watch and act on the LA Chargers. And Minnesota, the Vikings, who finished 7-9 as well. Offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak retired. As of yet, that position hasn't been filled. As of Sunday night, some big free agents as well: safety Anthony Harris, linebacker Eric Wilson, and defensive end Ifeadi Odenigbo. Oh, how did I go with that? I think I butchered that a little bit. Excuse me. They are over the cap as well, $12.8 million. They have 10 picks though, 2 in rounds 3 and 3 in rounds 4, and another couple in round 5. An offense that finished 4th in the league. I was surprised when I saw that, actually. Rushing offense 5th, passing offense 14th. They found Justin Jefferson, who's going to be a star in this league. They need more offensive line help again, Minnesota. They always seem to. And the defense finished 27th, 29th in scoring. Daniil Hunter will be back from injury, so that will help, but they need to get more talent up front and in the secondary. They'll get Michael Pierce back as well, the defensive tackle, who was an opt-out too. So they're going to move ahead with Kirk Cousins, and they've got some nice pieces as well, some young pieces. So let's see what the Vikings can do in the off-season. Okay, we're going to take our final break, and then when we return, we'll look at the final few teams. And if we have time, hopefully have a look at the quarterback carousel as well when we return here on Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. You're listening to Casey Radio 97.7 FM. Back soon. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on this Sunday evening here on Casey Radio 97.7 FM, where we've been going through and having a bit of a off-season preview of sorts for all the teams that didn't make the playoffs. So far, we've had a look at teams in terms of the draft order 1 through 14. And we're going to have a look at the final 4 teams, the teams that just missed the cut this year in the playoffs, 15 to 18. And then we're going to have a look at the 2 teams that were eliminated on Championship Sunday. But we're going to start with a team that is always very interesting to have a look at each off-season, and they're difficult to predict what they're going to do. And that is the New England Patriots, who finished 7-9 this season. First time they missed the playoffs since 2008. No coaching changes, but a raft of free agents that are set to hit free agency, including guard Joe Tooney, who played on the franchise tag this year, cornerback Jason McCourty, running backs James White and Rex Burkhead, fellow cornerback J.C. Jackson, who had a terrific season, Cam Newton, the quarterback, there's an interesting name, to watch. Centre David Andrews and defensive tackles Lawrence Guy and Adam Butler. They do have a ton of salary cap space, New England. They always seem to. They got the fourth most, 57.3 million, with 6 draft picks, although they have forfeited a third rounder as the punishment for illegal filming of the field and sidelines by the team's television crew of a 2019 game between Cincinnati and Cleveland. The offense for the Patriots finished 27th. The big question is, what on earth do they do at quarterback? It looks unlikely that they're going to move ahead with Cam Newton. It looks like the Newton experiment may have been one season and then out. And they also need to inject talent to the skill positions. They have one of the most talent-poor wide receiver and tight end groups in the league. So they're going to have to spend a bunch of those draft picks. How many did I say? They had 6. They're going to have to spend a few of those on those skill positions, and also a defense that finished 15th this season is going to have to add some talent. Although they had the most, you may remember, they had the most COVID opt-outs of any team, 8 in total, and a couple of those on defense, including safety Patrick Chung and linebacker Dante Hightower, who is really the captain of that defense. They also had offensive tackle Marcus Cannon and fullback Danny Vitale, who are 2 important players of the offense as well. So those players will return to shore things up on either side of the ball. But really for New England, for the first time in 20 years, they have a real quarterback conundrum. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do. They're going to have a pick in the middle of the first round, so unlikely that they'll have any of the real elite talent fall to them. May they go after a Matt Stafford? I think that seems like more of the Bill Belichick thing to do, or perhaps he goes for a second tier sort of guy that may become available, like maybe a Jimmy Garoppolo. You may see him return to Boston, but we'll to Massachusetts, I should say. But we'll wait and see with New England. It's really, they're a team that haven't been worth watching in the off-season because there's been a lot of status quo. But now there's a lot to watch. Missing the playoffs for the first time in, 12 seasons, and now a question at quarterback. So we'll see how the Patriots go this off-season and what decisions they make. To a couple of teams that finished 8-8 now, the Arizona Cardinals, who have not made any coaching changes, but they too have some players that are about to hit free agency, including veteran cornerback Patrick Peterson, arguably the best player to ever play for the franchise in wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, starting running back Kenyon Drake, breakout linebacker Hassan Reddick, as well as Marcus Golden, and tight end Dan Arnold as well. They have $8.6 million to play with in free agency. And they have only 5 draft picks, the Cardinals, so they may be a team that's interested in perhaps trading down and acquiring more picks. It's an offense that finished 6th. No doubt that they need more weapons beyond DeAndre Hopkins for Kyler Murray to sling the ball around to. The defense finished 13th, 48 in sacks, which was 4th in the league, which is incredible when you consider that their main pass rusher Chandler Jones went down with a serious injury in the first few weeks. But it is a defense that needs to draft more talent, especially if they lose some of those guys that I just mentioned that are impending free agents, including Patrick Peterson and Hassan Reddick. COVID opt-outs, the only one of note was offensive tackle Marcus Gilbert, who looked like he was going to start at right tackle. So for the Arizona Cardinals, they know they have Kyler Murray, who can win them some games and can make some real plays, but they need to get some more weapons on that offense so that they can become more explosive, and the defense needs a little bit of help as well. And another team that finished 8-8 was the Las Vegas Raiders, who looked for all money like they were going to finish in the playoffs and make the playoffs this season, and then they just, the wheels fell off really in the last sort of 5-6 weeks. For the second season in a row, they hire former Chargers defensive coordinator Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator. A couple of free agents in defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins, cornerback Nevin Lawson, and wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, who had a breakout season this season. Where did that come from? They're another team in the red in terms of salary cap, $23.5 million. They have 7 draft picks. Their offense finished in the top 10. They finished 8th. They're still in need, though, of more talent, I think, at wide receiver and tight end. Of course, Jason Witten, their tight end, retired during the week, so He's gone. The defense finished 25th, 30th in scoring. They had a -11 turnover differential, which was the third worst. They had only 10 interceptions. Only 3 teams had fewer, and 21 sacks, which was 29. So they are in dire need of talent on the defense, which is a real worry because you think about all the early picks that the Raiders have spent on the defensive side of the ball over the last couple of years with Mike Mayock as the GM, including first-round picks. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just go hard at the defense in the first, maybe even 3 or 4 rounds of this draft upcoming in April. The Raiders now to probably the best team of the teams that failed to make it to the playoffs, and that was the 10-6 Miami Dolphins, who were eliminated in the final week of the season. Offensive coordinator Chan Gailey resigned. I don't believe that position has been filled as of tonight. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick and centre Ted Karras as the main free agents. They have a nice little chunk of salary cap, $23.8 million, 7 draft picks, including 2 in the first round and 2 in the second round. And they also have 2 first-round picks next year as well. It's an offense that finished 22nd, flip-flopping between Tua Tagovailoa, the rookie, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Here's the big question. Do they forge ahead with Tua, or do they maybe find a way to go and get Deshaun Watson? I know they are the team that have been linked with Deshaun Watson the most. So we wait and see with bated breath what happens there. I think if they acquired Deshaun Watson, that puts them in Super Bowl contention straight away. Such as, the high regard I hold Deshaun Watson in. The defense finished 20th. I was surprised that they finished that low, actually. They had the third best, though, turnover differential with +9, and they in fact led the league in takeaways. They do need a little bit more talent up front. I think this is a defense that played greater than the sum of its parts this season. The only notable COVID opt-out that will be back is wide receiver Albert Wilson. So that will help. They do need some help at wide receiver at Miami, but they are a team to watch in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes that are sure to kick off in the next few weeks when the new league year starts. Now to the 2 teams that were eliminated last week, starting with the Packers, 13-3. They were in the regular season, and of course they beat the LA Rams and then lost in the home championship game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They fired defensive coordinator Mike Pettin during the week, as well as special teams coordinator Sean Menenga. They fired him shortly after the game. Worrying signs, they have a whole bunch of free agents that will impact players this year, including centre Corey Linsley, guard Lane Taylor, cornerback Kevin King, who got destroyed in that championship game last week, starting defensive end Tyler Lancaster, the 2 number 1 running backs, or the number 1 and 2 running backs on the depth chart, I should say, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, wide receiver Alan Lazard, and breakout tight end Robert Tunyon. They are also in the red with salary cap space, $28.4 million. They have 7 picks, including 29th overall, so some big decisions to make. The offense finished 5th in the league, 1st in scoring, but they have to support Aaron Rodgers with more weapons. They didn't draft really any offensive weapons last season, except for, if you include A.J. Dillon, the running back, in round 3. The defense finished 9th, 26th in takeaways. That was 26th in the league in takeaways with 18. They could, it would serve them well to get some more guys in the back end that can take the ball away to maybe pair with, Jair Alexander. The only notable opt-out that will be back over at opt-out is wide receiver Devin Funcher. So interesting off-season coming for Green Bay, and we'll wait and see what happens with Aaron Rodgers, although I expect he'll be back, but there's a bunch of players that may not be. Buffalo was the other team who were eliminated, also finished 13-3, won 2 playoff games. They beat Indianapolis and Baltimore before falling to Kansas City. No coaching changes. Got some free agents and a few on the offensive line as well. Starting guards John Feliciano and Ike Butger, linebacker Matt Milano, and wide receivers Andre Roberts and Isaiah McKenzie, as well as right tackle Darrell Williams. They have only $1.6 million in salary cap space. They got 7 picks, including the 30th overall. Offense finished 2nd in the league this season, behind Josh Allen. Of course, the run game finished 20th, though, so they have to fix that. Defense finished 14th, third in takeaways, but they only had 38 sacks, which was 15th in the league. They are in dire need of more pass rush juice. If they can go out and land a big-name pass rusher, I think that'll help take the Bills' defense to the next level. And their only main opt-out that will return is defensive tackle star Lotulelei, who came across a couple of years ago from Carolina. So that is my off-season reasoning. I was hoping to break down the Matt Stafford and Deshaun Watson situations. I'm going to run out of time, unfortunately, gang, tonight, but we will have time next week to have a look at that as we pick apart the Super Bowl matchup on Super Bowl Eve. And I'm going to have a special guest join me as well in the studio next week. I'm not going to reveal that, but it is a name and a voice that you will recognize. So look out for that. Enjoy Super Bowl week, gang. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to see you back here next Sunday night from 10 p.m. to build up to Super Bowl 55 and pull it all apart for you next Sunday night, 10 p.m. back here on KC Radio 97.7 FM for Talkin American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. That's when I'll see you next, gang. Thanks for listening. Enjoy Super Bowl week, and I'll see you next Sunday night. Bye for now.